Hey guys, welcome back to Young and Unscripted. Today we have a really exciting guest on. We have on Braulio, and he is an actor, producer, and the founder of Try 42.
Yes.
Braulio, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
How are you feeling today?
Feeling great. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
Had a busy day, busy week.
Yeah.
But yeah, just grateful to sit down, reflect, ask some questions, of course, go back and forth and talk and have a productive conversation.
Yeah, exactly. So, can we start off by talking about your background, how you got into the industry, all of that stuff?
So my background, I started with, kind of being like introduced to film, television from a very young age. I grew up in Islington, and a lot of my young childhood was playing around the area, quite central London. So of course, I'm seeing like a corporate environment. There was a production company on my road, and they would kind of like be on set, have vans coming down up our road as we rode bikes and kicked balls up. I played football on literally like the estate next to the road, and it was a fun childhood. And I also went back home to Angola, where I'm from, and that kind of confirmed my bias about being creative and seeing other people do it. And I believe in seeing, and then of course believing, and then producing what of course you want to produce. And I think that kind of early stage kind of influence from seeing other people do it gave me the confidence to do what I wanted to do from a very young age. So performing in like school plays, to then going outside and taking external opportunities, and kind of like gripping every opportunity that I can to be able to, to be involved in something other than schoolwork, because I wasn't really the most academic. But I'd say that I loved to be able to do stuff that was quite new, external, fun, and engaging, and that was kind of my passion.
Yeah. So, with school, did you go to a normal, like, secondary school and then went to Brit? How did
Yeah.
that work?
So yeah, I went to a normal secondary school. I went to a school called London Nautical. For a period of time, like I did school plays in primary school, from a primary school that was quite close to my area in Islington, and then moved on to another school that was outside of my area, which was in Waterloo, called London Nautical. So I was studied at London Nautical for 5 years, and at that point it was like, what do I want to do? Because it was a sports school, and my sister had gone to a school quite close by, which was a girls' school called Notre Dame. And yeah, I mean, separating from kind of like being creative, it pushed me down like a sport and entrepreneurial route.
Yeah.
And kind of like I had a bit of a clash between like who I wanted to be as a individual, and like sports wasn't really like my vision for future. It was like more like a hobby.
Yeah.
And then I kind of like fell back into the love of being able to do something different. And I was gracefully given an opportunity to like produce my own short film as a part of a program outside of school, given to me by my tutor.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing. So, you did that whilst you were at school?
Yeah. I did that whilst I was at school in year 10.
Amazing.
So yeah, I was given the opportunity to produce, act, and write. Well, come up with a concept for a short film that went on and did really well.
Amazing. What was your process for that? I feel like at year 10, that's quite daunting.
Yeah, I mean, I was just a confident guy. Like from
Yeah.
quite young, I mean, I had this sense of delusional kind of spirit from.
You
like,
know what?
believing in
I've
myself.
heard this a lot. Like, everyone in the industry just says, "Oh, I just have to be delusional," because
Yeah.
you do just have to be, because you have to believe in yourself and know
100%.
that you're gonna make it, because it is just such a crazy industry.
Yeah. I mean, there was parts in my in my story where I was just like, I believed I was a football player for Arsenal. I believed I was a multi-millionaire
Yeah.
entrepreneur, and I convinced myself to be able to kind of reach certain goals. I'd say like that kind of belief system, even though I didn't have all the necessary skills, which I then found out through the process. That belief got me through the first couple stages, and then finding out, okay, do I want to continue with this kind of story I tell myself, I guess.
Yeah. Would you say that you learn a lot on the job then? Would you say like more than kind of training for it, you learned more when you were actually doing it?
Yeah, I'd say I learned a lot from seeing. I think I'm a visual learner,
Yeah.
and I didn't know about different style of learning for a long time. I didn't know about the styles of learning for at least like my kind of majority of my secondary school experience. I only realized after I went to Brit school that I'm a visual learner. I have to see it. I have to be able to be immersed within it to be able to like convince myself to be able to like, of course, achieve what I set out to achieve. And yeah, I think seeing it kind of, as I mentioned, gave me the confidence to be like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do it.
Yeah. Did you find it helpful being at somewhere like Brit where you're then surrounded by people who want the same things as you? Because I guess at your secondary school, people probably wanted to do sports, so it
Yeah.
was different for your creative.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like the outlier. I was kind of knew everyone, and I had relationships, of course, from a like friend level with kind of majority of the people within like my spaces in school and different year groups and stuff. I think in secondary schools where I found out that I didn't want to be an athlete full time.
Yeah.
I didn't really see that being my career path, and I've reflected back on my small wins and stuff that I've done in the past that kind of gave me the direction that I wanted to go in. Like seeing reflecting back at when I did a Lion King performance and doing all of these extracurricular activities outside of school. Reflecting back on those, I was like, all right, cool. I've kind of done stuff here and I really want to get back into it. So let me find ways to do that and not follow the crowd within where they want to go.
Yeah. At that age, when you were kind of in your sixth form or
Yeah.
at Brit, did you know that acting was the main thing you wanted to go through, or did you want to do producing, writing? What did you feel like? Were you in the acting strand?
No, I actually wasn't. No,
Oh,
I was in the musical theatre strand actually.
No way!
Yeah,
Oh my
everything-
gosh.
it's crazy. No one actually really like. Everyone would assume that I was in the acting strand.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I am an actor. I mean, I chose musical theatre. A funny story. I chose musical theatre when I was at a tuition course. So I was doing a tuition course with a woman called Yasmin, and I was going through my options of like what I should choose. And because I had to reflect on my experiences, the only thing that I had seen from like secondary school, I mean, the period up from doing that short film, then going to looking back at like when I did Lion King and all the shows that I watched up until that period, majority of them were musicals and very few were short films or films. And I'd watch films and I'd be like, oh yeah, this is sick. But I felt like musical theatre is where I had more experience. So I had a better chance.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about what do I kind of like from a strategic point, like what do I feel like I have a better chance
of getting
in. And I think I shouldn't have had that mentality. I probably should have said, what do I want to do that's going to benefit me long term? So I wouldn't advise anyone, if you're thinking about applying to schools, colleges, whatever, Brit school, apply for what you believe is going to help you long term. And yeah.
You know, you're talking about the Lion King. Was this an extracurricular thing, or were you actually in like the Lion King?
Nah, I wasn't actually in the Lion King musical. This was a school production.
Oh, okay.
And the people from the Lion King came down to teach us.
Oh my god.
So yeah, they gave us we had 2 to 3 sessions. It wasn't crazy, but
yeah, that's still amazing.
Yeah, they came. They it was kind of like a mentorish kind of situation where they kind of come in. We would rehearse it. They'd go through the lines and they'd help us perform it in a certain way. Yeah. And yeah, just I was like, anything except from maths, English, science, and
get me there.
Let me just go and be creative for a second. And I loved it. I flew. I was totally immersed, focused, and it was a different way of expressing myself.
So do you sing as well?
Not really.
I feel like you do. I feel like to get into musical theatre, you must be a singer.
I can hold a note. Let's just say that.
But you wanted to steer more away from that.
Yeah. I kind of wanted to go more. I still do love musicals. I just didn't feel like there was many that represented where I was trying to go, or who I am. So I was just like, I love it to a degree. I have experiences doing it, but I want to kind of delve more into acting right now, so I can perfect that craft and do that a lot more, which I enjoyed, and then. Maybe, who knows, I delve back into musicals.
Yeah. Well, you know how you say musical theatre didn't necessarily give you what you wanted to be in and what you saw yourself in. So what is that? What do you see yourself in?
Good question. I'd say, yeah, kind of stories that I guess represent like my experience and that are more authentic to who I am
Yeah.
and from what I've experienced, like growing up and situations that I've been through, or friends, family. It's kind of more like that. Like I wanna have a representation of what I've seen or what I've been through
Mm-hmm.
on screen or in theaters, so people can understand a mentality or a perspective differently, or a group of people in a community differently. And I think that's kind of hence why I started my own production company, because that allows a platform of people who do also feel like that to be able to come together and be like, I want to tell a story about inner city children living up in central London and the challenges of that. Or, for example, people from minority backgrounds who travel from like different countries to be able to provide for their families, and that kind of hope and dream. I think showing musicals or films and projects like that, I feel
Yeah. Like
would
representation really matters to you.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's what I'd probably push for. And if there was that, then maybe I would have liked it differently.
Yeah, I always say the same. I say like the pieces that I want to be in the most is didactic theatre. Like I want people to learn from it. I want people to see themselves represented in what I'm doing, and hopefully like that creates a change and that pushes things forward. So with Try 42 then, which is your
Yes.
production company,
Yes.
can you tell us about that? So where did it start? How did it start? All of that stuff.
Yeah, so with Try 42, it started with kind of like creating skits during lockdown. Myself and a few other creators in like lockdown, we saw like a vision of like using our time creatively to be able to tell stories just on our phones and on devices that we resonated with or we found were cool and unique. And during that period of time, we was amounting several like thousands, millions of views, even million likes on TikTok, Instagram, whatever. We was just really just telling stories and just being creative. And I was like, at this time, there was a period of gap between my first year at Brit School. So I was doing my musical theatre course. I'd do like my online lessons and warm ups and stuff. And then later on in the day, I'd film with friends. I'd be like, oh, I'd film a skit or I'd film an episode. And then I was like, all right, cool. I want to be able to scale this. Like, I don't want to be doing skits forever. So I need to find a way that I can do productions.
Yeah.
And as an individual, I had to learn what that meant. And I thought it would be as easy as just taking a short course. But there was a lot of things that I had to learn to be able to be at this point. Like I had to learn how to manage teams. I learned how to operate cameras. I had to learn about production systems, call sheets, all these different things that as a creative who was making skits, you may just think, oh, we just got to pick up a camera and shoot. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of technicalities, like even setting up a mic and doing a podcast like this.
Yeah.
You have to know basic information to be able to, of course, grow. So that was kind of my whole perspective, was how can we turn these skits into actual stories for a standard that we believe we can scale.
Yeah. And what about the name? Why Try 42?
Great question. I'd say that name kind of come from like trial and error, like trying and being able to kind of succeed through trials. I mean, I saw a great quote, which was like Kobe Bryant has the world record of the most missed shots, but he's also one of the world's leading champions.
Yeah.
And his shirts were tied, and there's several different things that he's done in the sport, but he had to fail a certain amount of times to be able to get to where he's of course reached the level he's reached. So I think trying and being able to appreciate failure and know that that's a part of the journey and embracing it is something that we hone in on, and we definitely appreciate that people. It's a journey with people, like it's a journey with myself as well. I use myself as the biggest case study because I've went through certain, of course, challenges in my life that I've overcome to be in this position right now, sitting here. And yeah, it's for me, I find it inspiring.
Yeah. What about 42 though? Where does
That's a big part of it as well. I mean, to be honest with you, I was just looking for an Instagram handle. So
no, I've had the same thing where I'm like, what works? Who's taking this?
Exactly. So at the time we was making the skits, I was like, oh, like I'm not trying to do the official Braulio. I'm like, nah, like I'm just trying to find something unique. And then something just came to me. I think it was God. He just literally said 42. I was like, oh, well, let's try 42. And then I put in like 42.ent, and then it was just like, all right, cool.
Yeah,
run
it
with it.
works. It's nice. How has the process been, like doing it with your friends? As you said, do you find it hard to sometimes mix business and friendships?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard. It is hard. I mean, I've had several like experiences trying to work with friends and the balance of working with friends and the and sometimes it depends on your friendship level.
Yeah.
Like I think for me, like there's friendship levels where it becomes too casual that the work doesn't get done.
Yeah.
And then there's also friendships that are very work based, but you don't really have a really concrete friendship.
Yeah.
And I think the balance to get that right is communication. Like you have to be, and this is something I'm working on at the moment, like to have that strong communication to the point where you can talk about the hard problems. And that's difficult. Like to be able to say,
Yeah.
I don't agree with this. And for me, for grown creatives at 19, 18, 17, who are thinking about starting their businesses, if you are, this is the best time. Um, if
Why
you
would you
are,
say it's the best time?
technology,
Yeah, true.
technology, resources like this,
Yeah.
it's the best time. I mean, we didn't, I guess our parents didn't really have the resources that we have. I'd say for myself at least, to be able to have a studio or be able to produce stuff and have contacts and connections that open the door to different opportunities. And I think, yeah, if you are thinking about starting a business or starting a podcast or doing a clothing brand, now's the time because everything is changing at this point. So you have an opportunity to capitalize on the technology and use it to your advantage to be able to grow and just do what you want.
Yeah. What would you say is your favorite project that you've done with 42?
Ooh,
Like the thing you've been the most proud of?
that's a great question. I'd say at the moment I don't have favorites, but what I did enjoy the most
Yeah.
was the Barbican project, just because that was a full circle moment from growing up in. Like, I live on the cusp of Islington. I live in an area, kind of near Farringdon, Clerkenwell.
Okay.
So in that is basically on the bridge of Camden, which is towards Holborn. If you go towards Holborn, you go to Camden. If you go back, you go way into Islington, like Angel. If you go through the other way, you can go into City of London, and in that kind of literally junction, you see a lot of different people, people coming from different lives, areas, experiences, and the City of London cross was more like that was more executive, that was more business focused,
Yeah.
and the Barbican being a part of that kind of City of London
Yeah,
environment.
because the Barbican's next to Guildhall, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I remember I did like a summer school there, and the Barbican was literally down the road, which is crazy. But it feels weird because obviously that specific part of it feels very creative because you've got the school and then the Barbican, but actually Moorgate and that whole central, it's very business, very corporate.
It is.
Like it's
it
a
is.
weird world to
It's a
mix it.
yeah, and I think that whole mix of people,
Yeah.
all of those people together kind of create an environment, a community,
Yeah.
right? And I think just seeing that and growing up in it is giving me a unique perspective on business, on life, on relationships, on how to treat teams, on growth, on scale. And the Barbican was a big part of it because I grew up going to the Barbican for fun, or just walking around there with my friends and doing photo shoots. And you see so many people use the Barbican to be able to do, of course, music videos, films, etc. It's such a well-known place for television, film, and creativity, especially visually, because of its architecture. And to be able to have a commission project by the Barbican, funded by them, it was
That's
a big
amazing.
step.
How did you go about getting that commission?
Great question. So I was a part of something called the Imagine Fund. Unfortunately, it's closed. They're not doing it. We were the fourth and final year.
Yeah.
So every time I tell this story is that funds, go for funds. There might not be the Barbican one, but go for
There'll
funds.
be ones.
And the other reason why it's the best time to start a business is because there's so many funding applications out there.
Yeah.
There's the Roundhouse. Of course, Barbican are bringing some back, but you've got BFI. You've got that comes to mind. You've got several, but look at organizations like Chelsea. They did their fund that recently came out, and I know someone who's having an exhibition for it. But there's a lot of opportunities for creators between 16 to 25 and even 16 to 30. There's so many opportunities to be able to use financial resources to build your business. Say, for example, you want to get a new studio or you want to do an exhibition. Yeah, there's places and companies that would get funds and grants to be able to support those kind of, or well, these projects. So what was the original question? I think that's fine.
That's so good. How did you go about getting the funding?
One day chilling around the Barbican, I see this flyer, Imagine Fund. What was the Imagine Fund? It's like, oh yeah, this is a fund to be able to have people within a community in this radius and to be able to put on a community-led or based project. And I'm thinking, all right, cool, like this is sick. Join our Zoom calls to get more information. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna join the Zoom calls.
Yeah.
And there was like 2 different Zoom calls. So I joined both. So it was basically the same information, but I just wanted to show as much face as possible.
Yeah.
I was like, I need this fun.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure that this is the opportunity. And I just spent me and my boy Bruce, shout out Bruce. We were sitting in a fora, so we was just working in a co-working space, and we was literally just analyzing the information that we was gonna put for this fund, how it was gonna help the community, what we was gonna do, having the crew, who's the crew, why is the crew important, showcasing case studies, showing why vertical cinema is going to scale and how this is going to help the community, and doing the screening and exhibition and showing how it's going to benefit and grow long term. So literally just breaking it down. And we wanted to use this as a platform, as a case study that we would say, look, this is what we've created and this is what we aim to create, like experiences for the community, and bringing people together to be able to go through a production and also experience the exhibition side of things. Because alongside the production, we had an exhibition that was in the Barbican, and we brought down like 150 young people where we was just had drinks. Shout out Alfred, he helped us out a lot on that. And yeah, so we got drinks. We had like the exhibition for, I think it was 4 days, 4 or 5 days. And it was an amalgamation of all the different years, so it wasn't just ours. But what we wanted to do is on the opening night to really just bring down the community, and make sure that our community was present and within that kind of environment, networking, meeting new people, communicating, and just building on what we've kind of set a foundation on. And yeah, the process of getting the fund was applying, and doing like research and actually spending time, because they can really tell if you spent time or if you've just chat GPT'd and just put in lazy answers.
Yeah.
So I'd say spend some time on it, like really focus on it, see what they're asking you and why they're asking you that question. And yeah, kind of just, focus, and then you get the fund, and from there you build something that is something that you can scale or is sustainable. Like do something like a short film that you feel like you really believe in, that you want to then take to different places and maybe film festivals, and you can use what you've built from a fund to have a case study to be able to grow that.
Yeah.
And that's why I'd always advise.
That's so true. That's really good. So what was that project then? Was it the vertical cinema?
That was the vertical cinema, which was 5 episodes, with people who were literally my day ones, like who I did a short film called Ivory, which is out on MYM. Nicole, which we did an early collaboration in like 2019. And we hadn't spoken for a while, and then all of a sudden we have a meeting at Fora, and she's at Met Film, and I'm like, I'm thinking about doing this project, and we collaborate. And so many other individuals who transition. I got my family members involved.
Oh, that's
my
so
little
nice.
cousin and one of my nephews, and yeah.
So why vertical cinema? Why do you think it's so important?
As mentioning, it was like that step up from that skit, like from making skits and telling stories. It was where we believe the future of like short form is going. A lot of creatives are making stories and telling stories at a really high standard and expressing themselves via vertical cinema to be able to kind of share and promote their stories. I think it's important because, it eases the process. One, it eases that kind of, okay, I don't have several £1,000s to be able to produce a whole short, but I could use this as a case study to be able to get more funding. Is somewhere where you can share and grow an audience. People who are interested in that story would want to see more, or they might want to just invest in you. And then there's also the aspect of just being able to create something that you're passionate about, that you haven't seen, or that you would want to see. And that's why I feel like pillars of vertical cinema kind of stand on like being able to create something that you believe in. What you may not have all the resources, but we can work together to be able to put something together to also just showcase what it would look like, and if you wanted to invest in it, like what the standard would be.
Yeah. And were they all then like different? You said they were different episodes. So were they all following different stories? What were those?
Yeah, so yeah, they're kind of non-linear. A lot of the stories for the Barbican project, they were kind of around the environment of the Barbican. So our process was like to interview as many people as we could. Of course, I had my personal experience, which was something that I added onto something, or the project and the production that I directed. But we just interviewed a bunch of people and we said, what do you think? Like, what do you think about the Barbican? How has it helped you? What do you like about it? What do you maybe dislike about it? What are some of the stories that came out of it? And we sat with a group of writers. We developed it, and from there we produced it.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. So, what is your favorite part of the process? I'm really intrigued to know, because obviously it sounds like you do a lot for the start before it's even got up on its feet, but then
Yeah.
you've got the acting, directing, man of many talents.
Man of
So,
many talents, yes.
what's your favorite part? I guess they all kind of
I
intertwine.
guess
It's hard, isn't it?
yeah, it's hard, but definitely seeing it done, like
Yeah,
like having
the finished result.
having an idea at the start, that's like a vision,
Yeah.
and then seeing the end result where you have like a product, like you have a digital or physical product, like a comic or a vertical cinema series, you can like appreciate the process a bit
Yeah.
more, because you know how much it took, you know how long it took, and you know how stressful certain periods and parts were. But when you see the end result, you're like, this is amazing. Like,
Yeah,
our hard
I
work
did this.
paid off.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Mhm.
So, obviously at the start, we were talking about musical theatre and how that was sort of your route. And now you've got the whole producing, writing, all of that.
Yeah.
So, with that journey, where do you see yourself going more in the future? What avenue do you want to go down?
Yeah, definitely producing and acting.
Mhm.
Like, we've got a slate this year that's gonna be sick. Like, we have so many projects that we've like planned to kind of line up, and like we've got a slate. In that, it's just being able to strategize how we're gonna produce it, what resources we need, and how we're gonna, of course, make it happen really.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see myself producing, I see myself acting a lot more this year, and yeah, just staying consistent.
Would you say that in this industry it's important to make your own work? Because obviously you talk about a lot of things of Try 42, and that's all your work. Do you think it's important to seek out your own opportunities?
100%. I think everyone's building at this point. Like, a lot of people are being inspired to be creative, and it's becoming less of a taboo to be able to like have a creative pathway, and I think for different reasons, especially coming from African household and background, my mum never really saw like a creative background being something sustainable
Yeah.
until you can prove it to them, and that proving part takes a long time for them to kind of be like, all right, this is something that could potentially work long term. Over time, yeah, you discover it and you find what you want to do, and you just do it.
How much convincing did it take to let you go on this path?
Like 5 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
this
she
is
still
not
doubts
working.
it today. Like, she's
Okay.
like, oh, what are you doing? Like,
What
are
is
you sure you
this?
don't want to be a doctor?
Yeah. You know what? I think it's so hard with this industry, because I feel like I have this conversation quite a lot actually, but there's not always a lot of proof. Like, you can feel like you're doing so much. You're so drained, and you're there and you're putting in all of your effort, but there's not always the proof of it. So I guess from an outside perspective, so when people say to me, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm just acting, doing my podcast. They're like, oh, okay, cool, but where are you making your money? What are you doing? It's like, we're trying. We're trying to make it out here. But
Literally.
it's hard, but it works. And I feel like it is one of those things, as you said earlier, that you do just have to believe in yourself.
100%.
What advice would you give for people who want to make their own work and maybe don't know where to start?
Yeah, build with people around you. Like, for example, this conversation is built because we've met. We met at MYT. We have several conversations. We follow each other on Instagram. But I'd say we're at a level where we're growing. Like, it's not like, for example, you've brought in the CEO of Chanel.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
One day.
one day. And for one day, of course.
Yeah.
But at the sense where using this as an example to show that you want to be building with people who are in your class. And Daniel Kaluuya says it as well. He's like, build with people around you. And by building with people around you, you can grow and scale. You look at the Clints, the Courtiers, the Gabriel Moses, and that kind of class of people who've built together and shared resource and shared contacts and been around each other's environment. They've been able to consistently grow. And I see, of course, myself, yourself, Selom, Raf, all of the other creators and people who I collaborate with. Marcus, there's a list. Daniela, AJ, there's so many different people who we collaborate with that in this class you can build up together and you can grow together. And I'd say for people who are starting out or people who are looking to make their own work, is find your class. Find your class of people who you like inspired by, who you like what they do or what they produce and how they work and their kind of like practicality or the results that they will bring to the table. Is like find who's in your class and grow with them.
Yeah. And with, I guess, growing, especially within acting, do you think it's still really important to take classes? Because I know obviously like a lot of people, again, I have this conversation quite a lot with, they either go to drama school or, you know, like a part-time school. Obviously, we met at the National Theatre in Focus sessions. So you obviously go,
in
ages
Focus.
ago,
Yeah.
I think that's actually the only place, because
Didn't we meet at NYT as well?
I
think not meet, but I've seen you at NYT.
NYT, yeah, probably, because I know we did the first, was it the Confessions or something?
Yeah.
And then there was another one, Nye? Were you there for that?
I was at Nye.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, and then probably MIT as well. But yeah, it was through that. So how important do you think it is to carry on the craft, I guess, with finding other
vital.
Yeah, 100%.
At this point, I want to be doing more, but because I've just like overloaded myself,
so busy,
it's crazy. But yeah, it's vital. Like I was doing extracurricular courses, like for example, the National Theatre. Pick up the National Theatre. And
I love National Theatre.
And yeah, just do those consistently. Like don't stop. Like if you see opportunity and you're free, just do it. Like if you think it's gonna be beneficial, you meet someone new. There was so many like funny story. I met my head editor at Try 42 from going to an NFTS event. I didn't want to go. It was in Beaconsfield. I was like, this is long.
Yeah.
But I literally saw the email like 2 weeks ago. I put it in my calendar. And I was like, all right, why not? What can I lose?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
like it's just some time, and the time's gonna be beneficial to the end result. So I might as well. So if you think about it like that, you can meet people in the class that I've literally previously mentioned, because you have to be around that environment. You have to be aware of what's going on and what people are up to, kind of, to be able to find who's in your class of what you're trying to do.
Yeah, and I've noticed that you actually start to see the same people kind of on rotation. I think when I first kind of went into the industry, I thought, it's such a big industry. Like, I'm just going to get lost in a crowd of people. Yeah. But actually, the more you go, the more proactive that you are, you do start to see the same faces and you start to see who takes this seriously and who actually like wants something from it. But talking about the National Theatre, you did a show at the National Theatre. Do you want to talk about the Odyssey?
Yeah, praise God.
Yeah, look at you, National Theatre stage.
Yeah, that was great. I did a show called The Odyssey in 2023. Yeah, 23.
You know what's so funny? I remember this was actually at the InFocus. I can't remember who said it. We were at the InFocus thing.
Yeah.
And someone was going, he was in the Odyssey.
Was it?
Yeah. They were like, this guy was in it. I was like, oh my gosh. It was so funny, but
that
crazy.
That was a crazy experience. Performing on the Olivier, it was nuts. Like,
mad. That's like one of the big like stages as well.
Yeah, massive. Yeah, one of the biggest in Europe. And when I did it, I was like, kind of like, what am I doing right now? But I just lived it. Like I was just in it. Like when you're, it's crazy to say, like when you don't put things on a pedestal and you're currently in it, like you don't really deep how big it was.
Yeah.
Like I know people who are now like auditioning for the National Theatre and getting booked and stuff, but it's like when you're starting out, especially when starting out, I was like, I couldn't, what, on the national theatre?
Yeah.
The biggest stage in Europe, like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And like now it's like, this is a tangible goal because there's things that you could do to be able to achieve it. And like being a part of it was a blessing, and getting to see what Sharon Duncan Brewster and the whole cast, and seeing her leadership throughout, being of course the lead in that production, and seeing how she worked. I think a lot of my experiences with acting was like how do I like convince and like show you that I'm sick?
Yeah, that I deserve to be here.
Yeah,
So I feel
yeah,
like
yeah.
imposter syndrome as well is a massive thing in this
Yeah, yeah,
industry.
yeah.
So you've almost got to be like, no, I deserve to be here, and I'm
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
show you why I
Yeah.
deserve to be here. So how did you get that? Was that through Tribe House?
That was through Tribe. Big up Tribe House as well.
Yeah.
So how did I get that? So I got that through Tribe, Tribe House is a theatre company for black males between 16 to I believe 30. Big inspiration. Philip Morris, big up Phil. He gave me the opportunity to audition for a role. So they was doing featured roles. It was part of a production called, Public Acts was the main producers of it.
Wait, I think I just did a workshop with Public Acts.
Yeah.
At MIT.
At MIT. Was it to do with the Sunderland project?
Yes.
Yeah.
Last week. I
Last
literally
week,
just
how was it?
it's so good. They were so lovely.
Was it at the studio or was it at
It was at, the upstairs like work
Yeah.
yeah. And
Cottesloe,
it was like a dance.
Oh,
thing.
sick.
Yeah, it was
Sick.
so cool.
Was you with Emily by any chance? Nah.
Yeah,
Emily?
I think Emily and Dan.
Yeah. Dan's baldhead.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, crazy.
Yeah, he's sick.
That's
sick.
mad.
Yeah, mad. Like, they're lovely people. I love them a lot, man.
So
I gave them 42 hats as well.
nice.
That's how much I like them a lot. So, so it was just crazy. It was a surreal experience. And Public Acts basically was like audition, and we'll see what goes on and see how it goes. And I auditioned. I got in. There was like 2-3 roles available, and I was like, oh yeah, these are all featured performers. You'll be kind of supporting artists and stuff. And then all of a sudden there was like, all right, we've got another role, but we kind of feel like you might be good for it. And I'm like, for who? And they're like, Zeus. And I'm like, oh, okay. Me, like, isn't Zeus meant to be old and like grey hair? And I was like, all right, cool, let me just try it. And they was like, yeah, come in for a reading. And I was just read the lines. It was like pretty sure it was like a 45-minute like a session. And it was just like, all right, try this and try that and do this and do that. And I was just like, all right, cool. And tried it. And all of a sudden they hit me back in like 24 hours. It was like, yeah, we'd love you for Zeus. And I was like,
so you were really
sick.
good in that audition. They knew.
Sick. I mean, I felt good after it. I mean, when you do auditions and you've like,
you can kind of feel,
you get a good feeling, and you're like, oh yeah, this was really fun, and I felt like I did my best.
Yeah. How was the whole process like once you actually got started with it?
The process was great. I mean, to be able to perform and like rehearse with everyone, there was like so much of a community feel. There was people coming from Sunderland, coming from Doncaster, and there was an amalgamation of people coming from different areas in the UK, and us coming together, especially helping each other. It was really a community feel, and yeah, having that kind of responsibility as Zeus, and like a lot of people looked up to me, and I was like, oh, this is kind of strange. Like, why am I in this position? Like a lot of people older than me as well. So I was like, all right, sometimes you just got to step into it. And I was given a lot of confirmation that, yeah, you're right for this. Just keep going.
Yeah. So then what would you say are your next steps now then? Where do you see yourself going in the future?
Well, amazing things. So definitely producing more. There's going to be a lot more stories, vertical and not vertical as well. We're going to be doing shorts. I aspire to, in the next couple of years, do some stuff with theatre, musical theatre. There's going to be some stuff regarding like clothing and different collaborations that are going to be coming up. So, yeah, it's going to be a really, really successful year.
Amazing.
And successful couple years.
Yes. And our final question will then be, what would be your biggest piece of advice that you'd give to upcoming creatives?
Keep going, keep trying, and be yourself, because no one will be like you. And yeah, stay humble.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Braulio, for coming on the
worries.
podcast. I've had a great time. It's been so interesting to hear your story. So yeah, thank you. And thank you guys for watching. We will see you next week on Young and Unscripted.
See you next week.
Bye.